Hey everyone! Today we're jumping into a really incredible study. It's one that finally solves a heartbreaking medical mystery for so many families, bringing answers and a whole lot of hope. Let's get right into it.
Just think about this for a second. Your child is sick, but the usual treatments, they don't work. And the doctors, they can't tell you why. It's a terrifying place to be, right? And that's exactly where our story begins today.
So, we're going to be talking about a particularly tough kidney disease called steroid-resistant nephrotic syndrome, or SRNS for short. It's a condition that has really stumped doctors and, honestly, pushed families to their absolute limits.
All right, so what is SRNS? Basically, it's a condition where a child's kidneys are damaged and just leak massive amounts of protein. Now, for most kids with nephrotic syndrome, the standard playbook is pretty clear: steroids. But for about 15% of these children, the disease is steroid-resistant. The medicine just doesn't work.
You know, the paper we're looking at uses this really powerful term for what these families go through: a diagnostic odyssey. And that's exactly what it is. It's this long, agonizing journey, often lasting for years, just searching for answers. It's full of painful tests and treatments that don't even work, all without ever getting to the real root of the problem. So the big question is, why is this so hard to figure out? Well, for a while now, scientists have suspected that for a lot of these kids, the cause isn't some outside bug or anything like that. It's actually written right into their DNA. The problem? Finding one tiny typo in a genetic code that's 3 billion letters long, that's a huge challenge.
And this slide really gets to the heart of it. In up to a third of these cases, SRNS is what we call a monogenic disease. That just means it's caused by a single mistake in one gene. This one fault messes up these super important kidney cells called podocytes. Think of them as the kidney's main filter. When they break, the whole system just goes haywire.
You know, for years, the tools scientists used were kind of like trying to find one misspelled word in a giant library, but you're only allowed to check a couple of chapters. These older tests only looked at a few of the most likely suspect genes. But this new approach, whole genome sequencing, or WGS, it's like reading the entire library, every single page, cover to cover. You're not going to miss a thing.
And here's why that difference is so critical. Those older methods, they had a success rate of less than 30%. Think about that. That means for more than 2/3 of families who went through all that testing, they got nothing. No answers, no path forward, just a shrug.
And this brings us to what's so cool about this study. The researchers decided to completely flip the script. Instead of saving whole genome sequencing as this last-ditch effort, they said, no, we're going to use this incredibly powerful tool right from the very beginning.
Now, I know this sounds super complex, but the basic idea is pretty straightforward. You start with a simple DNA sample. Then these amazing machines read every single letter of that person's genetic code. Next, powerful computers compare that code to a reference map, kind of like a spell checker, flagging any differences. And finally, the scientists, they're the detectives here. They go through all those clues to find the one specific variant that's causing the trouble.
And that's really what makes this study a landmark. It's the first time anyone has taken this read-everything approach and applied it right from the get-go to a large group of kids with SRNS. They weren't just looking for a needle in a haystack. They were basically taking the whole haystack apart, piece by piece, to make sure they found it.
Okay, so let's get to the results, because this is where that long, painful diagnostic odyssey finally starts to come to an end for a lot of these families.
56.1%. Let that sink in for a moment. That is the number of families in this study who walked away with a definitive, concrete genetic diagnosis. After years of not knowing, more than half of them finally had an answer. They knew why their child was sick.
And just look at this chart. You can see what a massive leap forward this is. The success rate for finding a diagnosis nearly doubled. It went from under 30% with the old ways to over 56% here. This isn't just a small step up, it's a total game changer.
And what's more, they didn't just find an answer, they found very specific answers. The study was able to pinpoint the exact genes at fault. Turns out the most common culprit was a gene called NPH2, which was responsible for about a third of the cases. But they also found a whole bunch of other genes that were causing the problem too.
And here's something really exciting for the science itself. The researchers actually discovered 9 genetic variants that had never been connected to this disease before. I mean, that's incredible. It literally expands the known map of SRNS, giving doctors and future researchers totally new places to look for answers.
So this is all great science, but what does it actually mean for a kid and their family day to day? Well, getting a diagnosis like this, it's about so much more than just knowing the name of a gene.
A genetic diagnosis changes absolutely everything. First off, it ends that agonizing search for answers. It means doctors can stop using these really harsh immunosuppressant drugs that have serious side effects and, we now know, won't even work for these kids. It helps guide massive decisions, like who in the family can safely be a kidney donor. And it gives the family clarity, helping them plan for the future. It really is the definition of precision medicine in action.
The study's authors really hit the nail on the head with their conclusion. Finding the genetic cause isn't just an interesting fact, it is fundamental to making the right calls in the clinic. It lets doctors move away from guesswork and create a treatment plan that is targeted and smart, tailored specifically for that child.
And the impact here goes way beyond just the families in this study. The knowledge they gained is now being used to build a national registry for these genetic diseases in Egypt. Think of it like a massive library of information that will help speed up research and lead to even more breakthroughs for years and years to come. You know, when you see a success story like this, solving a mystery that has caused so much pain, it really makes you think. It just shows the unbelievable power of being able to read our entire genetic story, and it leaves us with this big, hopeful question. What other medical mysteries, what other diagnostic odysseys should we finally bring to an end just by cracking the code that's hidden inside every one of us?